What is up, YouTube? James Baek here, and welcome to an analysis of one of my tournament matches that I just had recently. I am going to be going over some of my tournament matches that I had at the recent Aon Gaming Win-a-Switch tournament. So this is my Swiss round, and a lot of people have been requesting that I upload basically videos of me playing at tournaments because they want to know my thought process. And of course, I'll upload a bunch of videos from tournaments in the future because I do play a bit more aggressively, or I play a bit differently because best of three is a different monster from best of one, a battle spot ladder. So I think it's really, really good that I also provide my tournament matches because it helps people understand the mindset that I can go through in the best of three. So right here we got round one of the Aon Gaming Win-a-Switch tournament that happened. This is round one. I got paired up against Chuppa Cross, and if you don't know who Chuppa is, he got second place at Virginia Regionals in 2014. He got top four at St. Louis in 2016, and has day two'd three different internationals, I believe. I believe he day two'd London in 2017, Australia in 2017, and I believe the US one in 2017 as well. So he's been a really strong competitor, and he is one of the New York locals, and I tend to face him a lot at our local events such as Premier Challenges and Midseason Showdowns. So his team was Kangaskhan, Zapdos, Landis Varian, Tapu Fini, Aegislash, and Tyranitar. My team was Salamence, Aegislash, Tapu Bulu, Milotic, Entei, and Tapu Koko. So against his team right here, I felt like that with no fire type, since I didn't see a fire type on my opponent's team, I thought Aegislash can do a lot of work. He really doesn't have an effective way to handle Aegislash other than his own Aegislash, and maybe if he had Z-move on Zapdos or Landorus, but I'm guessing it would be a Misty Seed Zapdos based on his team. I'm guessing it's Ghostium Aegislash since he did run that at a grassroots tournament. He did get second place at recently. And I'm guessing it might be Assault Vest Landorus. So right here, basically what I'm trying to figure out is like, okay, what's my game plan here? Zapdos is a bit annoying for my team since if it's a bulky Zapdos with like Roost, I don't have a really effective way of actually handling these Zapdos. So I want to lead my Aegislash here, I think, in game one because I feel like Zapdos would definitely be a lead for my opponent. Like the leads I'm expecting are probably Zapdos Fini. I could see Zapdos Kangaskhan. I could maybe see Zapdos Aegislash, but I don't think that's really likely. I could also see Zapdos Landorus, but I'm pretty sure that my opponent's going to lead with Zapdos, so I think Aegislash is a really good call. And I'm going to choose Salamence as my lead as well, because if my opponent leads Kangaskhan, I can just get intimidated off right off the bat, and I think it's really good against Landorus as well if my opponent decides to lead that. And of course, if my opponent lets something like Fini with Struts and Salamence, I could just go hard in my Tapu Bulu. Especially since my opponent has some Misty Terrain, I could just get a Toxic up by switching into my Tapu Bulu and just clicking Toxic on whatever. So I definitely want Tapu Bulu, and I think my Milotic's pretty good as the last Pokemon. Could pretty much handle the Aegislash if I burn its Z-move, if it's not like a toxic variant, as well as handles the Landorus. It kind of checks the Landorus variant, and can do a lot of work to Tyranitar as well. So those are the four I'm thinking definitely I want to bring for game one, because they're probably the safest, and, you know, with Salamence, all of these Pokemon actually have recovery in their own way, so I feel like it's very safe for game one. So let us get started. As yeah, I'm just saying to myself, okay, Salamence plus Aegislash is just very safe here. As let's see what Chuppa's gonna lead here, as it is going to be me leading off with Salamence Aegislash, getting that Intimidate off straight away, and hopefully being able to fire off a Toxic straight away. We're gonna see Kangaskhan and Zapdos lead here. And I thought, okay, this is pretty good for me. I feel like Zapdos would want to go for a Tailwind right here because of the fact that you could HP Ice to Salamence, but Salamence could protect here potentially. So I feel like Tailwind's very safe because you get 3 turns of really good speed control, and that could swing momentum into your favor. I don't really care about the Tailwind because my opponent doesn't have much that can take advantage of Tailwind to knock out my Pokemon right here. So I'm actually just going to Mega Evolve. Even though I'm training Intimidate, I just want to get a double edge off into Kangaskhan because Weaken It is great for my Tapu Bulu. As I am going to go straight for the double edge, as Kangaskhan actually stay in normal form to get a scrappy fake out into my Aegislash. Double edge does so much damage to the regular Kangaskhan, and Zapdos does fire off a Tailwind here. So I'm like, great, Aegislash flinches, Tailwind. Basically, all I did was trade a bit of damage for Immense for a lot of damage on Kangaskhan here. This turn, Kangaskhan decides to switch out and goes out into the Tapu Fini, which is going to proc the Misty Seed on my Zapdos. And this turn I was like, okay, I just want a Toxic on the Zapdos because I need to deal with the Zapdos early on. I need to start chipping away because this Zapdos is going to be annoying. And as you can see, it was the Misty Seed variant. So it's going to be really annoying to deal with that Zapdos. So I felt, okay, Toxic Protect is very safe here. Stall out a turn to Tailwind. If Fini wants to come in, I can always switch into Bulu the following turn. So I didn't mind this, as I will be able to get a Toxic off into that Zapdos with my Aegislash. And this is why Toxic Aegislash with leftovers is doing a lot of work, just being able to handle the Zapdos and put it on a timer. Now here I want to switch out my Salamence, go out on the top of Bulu, because one, it dresses a Fini. I'm a Assault Vest, so I won't really be mind taking a Moonblast, HP Ice, or whatever Chuppa might want to throw at me. And I will just go for a Toxic into the Tapu Fini because I can weaken the Tapu Fini in case Bulu takes too much damage where I can't rely it to knock out Tapu Fini late in the game. I want to rely on Salamence's Double Edge potentially. As Chuppa fires a Hidden Power Ice most likely into the top of Bulu, and a Muddy Water is going to come out and target both my Pokemon, but really doesn't do much damage at all to my team, as I do fire off a Toxic into that Tapu Fini. And that Tapu Fini is also going to be put on a timer. And in case Tapu Fini versus Aegislash 1v1, having that Toxic is really huge early on because I could potentially just beat it out by sub-stalling it. As with the Grassy Terrain plus leftovers, Aegislash heals 1/8 of its HP every turn, so that's fantastic. My opponent's team is getting really weakened here, and my opponent doesn't exactly have a safe switch in the top of Bulu. Like, Woodhammer pretty much hits the entire team, except maybe an opposing Aegislash. So Tapu Fini is actually going to switch on to Landers to one, it doesn't want to lose Fini yet because Fini can be very valuable. Two, drops an Intimidate onto my Tapu Bulu. But right here, I felt like Aegislash could get a free substitute up because it's not really being threatened at all from my opponent. And even if my opponent doubles up with like a Thunderbolt Muddy Water, I'm pretty sure I would still get a sub up. And I actually double out in my Milotic here because one, I felt, okay, Tapu Fini I think might protect here, or it could switch out to Landers, and I wasn't sure which one, but I felt Milotic was pretty safe. I do want to keep Tapu Bulu a bit healthy around for the late game. So get all this recovery right here as Chuppa fired an HP Ice into the Milotic. And right here, I'm like, okay, Tailwind wears out now. So I can fire off an Icy Wind. There's not one move an Assault Vest Landers can knock out Milotic if it is Assault Vest. If it's Groundium, we find out right now, and I don't really mind if it's Groundium, to be honest. As I find out my Milotic's actually faster since I do run a lot of speed on the Milotic. So I go for the Icy Wind. I unfortunately missed the Zapdos, but that's not too bad in my case. I mean, I would have loved to see if maybe my Salamence actually outsped the Zapdos at -1 with the Tailwind up. So Landers goes for knockoff, gets rid of my Adrenaline Orb, goes for Thunderbolt, doubles up my Milotic. Smart play by Chuppa, but I'm like, okay, I don't really need Milotic as much because I just need to weaken the really whatever my opponent has, so I don't mind. I'd rather keep Aegislash alive because Aegislash is a way that I can just win this game because my opponent doesn't have many resources that can beat the Aegislash, as Toxic is really wearing down that Zapdos. And now I can go on the top of Bulu. With Landers at -1 speed, I'm pretty sure I can just fire off a Horn Leech plus Shadow Ball into that Landers slot. As Chuppa's going to switch out into Tapu Fini to get the Misty Terrain, maybe hoping that Landers can live one Woodhammer and maybe get a good amount of damage off, or maybe a knockoff into my Tapu Bulu, or just try and knock on my Aegislash. As I go for Horn Leech here because I want the recovery. And Horn Leech actually gets a critical hit, but it shouldn't matter because I did double up the Landers. Because if Tapu Fini didn't come in, I would have got a Horn Leech off and probably knocked out the Landers potentially, and I could have got a Shadow Ball into the Zapdos. So double up the Lander slot because most likely it didn't carry Protect, as I would have assumed, because I think it's Assault Vest on this team. As I am able to knock out the Landers, and that's great because one, I don't have to worry about Intimidate later in the game, and that's one Pokemon that really threatens Aegislash gone. As this Aegislash behind the sub is looking to do massive work against my opponent's team. And Zapdos is going to come out right here, which means I can fire off a free Woodhammer into the Tapu Fini slot. Even if it protects, that's fine, because unless Zapdos roosts here, and even if you roost, like, I can still outspeed and knock out the Tapu Fini next to a Woodhammer. You have to go for Tailwind here if you want to get speed advantage. So just fire off a Woodhammer into the Tapu Fini slot and just Shadow Ball the Zapdos. I don't care if I really lose my sub, because it doesn't really matter, because I still have the speed advantage in my opinion. So Shadow Ball going to come out into the Zapdos, and that's going to pick up the knockout onto Zapdos. So now it's Tapu Fini and Kangaskhan against the world, and the Tapu Fini is toxic and the Kangaskhan's at really low health. If it does carry double edge, it will go down to it if it goes for it once. So I'm like in a really, really solid position right here. This Kangaskhan going to come back in. And here I'm like, okay, I can switch out of my Salamence to just King Shield. Because I want to get grassy terrain back up so I can toxic this Kangaskhan, so I can definitely 100% win the game. And I don't mind if Salamence goes down if Chuppa predicts this and goes for like double edge Muddy Water or double edge Moonblast or maybe fake out Calm Mind. Either one of those plays, like, I do not mind because I'm still in a good position with Aegislash. Like, Aegislash is going to be putting in a lot of work and probably can just win this game 1v2 even if it comes down to that situation. So Aegislash is going to go for the King Shield here. It's a very safe play overall, as let's see what the Kangaskhan decided to go for. It was the fake out into my Salamence, which was the Tapu Bulu previously, and the Tapu Fini just decides to throw off a Muddy Water because it does, one, try to maybe break my Aegislash's sub. Based on the Muddy Water from the last time, it wouldn't have broke my sub, but maybe Chuppa thought it would have. Plus, you can get a bit of chip onto Tapu Bulu so you can double edge, pick up the knockout potentially next turn. But right here, now I have a very safe play because now I can go on the Tapu Bulu and go for Toxic. Because I could have potentially protected Mence right there, but I'm like, okay, I'd rather get this Toxic up onto the Kangaskhan right away so I can potentially win by just protecting with Salamence. The following turn, stall out Tailwind, Kangaskhan might go down, and then I can double edge the Tapu Fini in the endgame. Double edge is going to come out of my Tapu Bulu, and that means Kangaskhan goes down, and that should 100% secure me the game because Salamance's double edge should just be able to knock out Tapu Fini once Tailwind runs out. Muddy Water going to come out, but it's not really going to do any significant damage onto my Tapu Bulu. And I don't think it breaks my Aegislash's sub. Nope, it doesn't. As Toxic does go off in the Tapu Fini slot, which was that Kangaskhan slot, in case Kangaskhan decided to ever go for like something else. Maybe like it had Ice Punch, which I kind of doubt, to be honest. But it was a potential possibility, as Chuppa is going to forfeit game 1 here. So I do take the first game, and right here, I'm thinking, okay, how does Chuppa might adjust? I took it very convincingly. I think that Chuppa might have to switch up because, one, like Aegislash, Tapu Bulu, Milotic, and Salamence, all of the Pokemon individually just gave him problems. So I'm like, okay, I think Aegislash gave him one of the most troubles, and so did Tapu Bulu. I think maybe his own Aegislash is probably going to be brought here. I could also see Tyranitar potentially, depending on its set. So I'm thinking, okay, what should I do here? So we're going to go into game 2, and this is going to be game 2. So right here, I'm thinking, okay, what does he lead? I don't think he leads Aegislash, but he might. I'm thinking Landorus could potentially lead here, so I'm thinking maybe I lead Milotic, but I don't want to lead Milotic in case he does decide just to opt for like a Zapdos lead, because I think Zapdos is just a very safe lead against my team. So I'm like, okay, what can put on a lot of offensive pressure right away? Because I don't think it's going to allow me to get the same thing with Aegislash twice. So I'm thinking, maybe I'll go Salamence Tapu Bulu here, because I think Salamence Tapu Bulu just threatens so much damage straight out. I can threaten a Nature's Madness, I can threaten a Wood Hammer and Grassy Terrain potentially if you don't lead Fini, and if you lead Fini, you're threatened by Wood Hammer turn 1 anyway. I'm going to have the same Pokemon, I know for sure, because Aegislash definitely puts in the work, and I think Milotic in the back for that Landorus. It also just does really well against my opponent's team. So that is my thought process of changing up, and let's just get straight into the battle. So I'm not sure what Chuppa's going to lead. I think Zapdos is definitely a potential lead. I don't think Aegislash would lead here. I think it would be like in the back just as a switch in potentially. As I will lead my Salamence Tapu Bulu here against Chuppa's team. And it's going to be the Zapdos Tapu Fini going to be leading. And I'm like, okay. So this is interesting because I would have really loved to lead Aegislash, to be honest, because I could have just maybe get a Toxic off right away. As I do reveal that I am faster than this Tapu Fini, Grassy Terrain goes up first, and Misty Terrain goes up after. So that is annoying because that means I can't fire off a Toxic into any of Chuppa's Pokemon unless it's Zapdos or maybe Landorus. So Misty Seed is also going to activate. So right here, I'm thinking Salamence is not in a good position. It can't do much. I think Aegislash is pretty good here because it can threaten anything on the field with a Toxic. As Chuppa's going to withdraw his Tapu Fini and go out into his own Aegislash. And I'm like, okay, this could be bad if he gets Tailwind up. As I actually fire off a Nature's Madness straight away into the Zapdos because I felt like maybe Tapu Fini might decide to protect here. I don't think you stay in with your Tapu Fini and risk it. As Chuppa actually goes for the Hidden Power Ice and goes out on a Tapu Bulu slot. which really doesn't do much at all. This turn, I feel like since I revealed sub in the last game, and you know that I don't have Ghostium, you know that most likely Aegislash can't be knocked out here, but you can't let me get a sub up. So I'm going to actually double up into the Aegislash slot because I don't feel like he can let me get a sub up ever. So I'm just going to Nature's Mana Shadow Ball and hope he doesn't King Shield. I feel like it would be very unlikely he King Shield because if I do get a sub up, if he King Shields, it'd be very, very bad for him. It would put him in a very bad position. I do get the call right as Zapdos decides to roost, maybe expecting a double target, anticipating the Aegislash. Me anticipating the Aegislash to King Shield and double up the Zapdos slot. As Kangaskhan going to come out, I do knock out the Aegislash, which is really, really solid here. And right here, I feel like, okay, Bulu's really necessary for the Feeny. I don't need my Milotic anymore because my Milotic really doesn't do much. So I think it's expendable as a sack here. I'm also going to switch out Aegislash and go on a Salamence because worst case, he may be Thunderbolt here, but I can really see Tailwind coming out from my opponent. And I really just want to intimidate this Kangaskhan right away, and I don't want to risk my Salamence early on, as Chuppa actually just fires off a regular double edge into the Milotic slot, as Zapdos does go for the tail, and I think he wanted to keep normal for him because he might have wanted Scrappy low kick onto Aegislash later in the game. But right here, I'm like, okay, I'm in a pretty good spot. I'm just going to withdraw Salamence here and go out into my Aegislash because Aegislash should be able to eat any combination of attacks, especially with the Kangaskhan at -1, so it's really not threatened here. Milotic doesn't do too much anyway, as Kangaskhan decides to Mega Evolve now. So I know he probably definitely can't touch my Aegislash here. As we're going to see me protect here because I'm like, I don't have to risk my Milotic yet. I can stall out a Tailwind turn by just protecting. As Kangaskhan just going to go for a double edge into my Milotic slot. And we are going to see a Hidden Power Ice going to go out in the top of into the Aegislash slot, which was the Salamence. And I'm like, okay, great. I can fire off a Toxic onto this Zapdos slot and try to get a Toxic off and wear the Zapdos down because it's a pain. I need a Toxic on that Zapdos 100%. Double Edge is going to come out of my Milotic. I felt my Milotic again was expendable. I didn't need it and I didn't want anything to maybe take an HP Ice plus Double Edge, double up. So I'll gladly take that as Chuppa goes for the Thunderbolt into my Aegislash, and I'm like, okay, I do get a Toxic off into the Zapdos, and with that Salamence at -1, Tapu Bulu and Salamence are both very good switch-ins here, and I'm thinking, that both are very viable here, as my opponent is going to take some Toxic damage and Mist disappears from the battlefield. So now I can Toxic that Kangaskhan, so I'm like, okay, I'm going to switch into Salamence here, because now this Kangaskhan's at -2. It can't do much, and basically, if Chuppa ever wants to reset that Kangaskhan, has to bring in Feeny, I can bring in Bulu. So Kangaskhan's actually going to withdraw here and go out into the top of Feeny, and with Tailwind up, this actually means he's faster than my Salamence. Actually, no, wait, no, Tailwind ended. It was actually speed tie, but I'm thinking, okay, I think Tapu Fini comes in here because, yeah, the Kangaskhan's kind of needed for damage output on a Bulu. So I'm actually going to bring out my Bulu. I actually win the speed, Chuppa wins the speed tie right there, which is actually very fortunate for me because Bulu gets the grassy terrain up. Thunderbolt going to come out into the Aegislash slot, and yeah, I just go for sub here because I think sub is better in case Feeny did come in, because I want Aegislash behind the sub because I want to protect it. And this grassy terrain is really beneficial because now I get 1/8 of my health every turn. And now I'm threatening a Wood Hammer into the Tapu Fini slot, which is really nice as Tailwind peters out this turn. Oh wait, no, it wasn't speed tie. It wasn't speed tie. Okay. I thought it was. I misread it. So Tapu Fini is going to switch out on a Kangaskhan, as I actually go for the Horn Leech into the Zapdos slot because I thought maybe Tapu Fini would protect here and switch out into the Zapdos, switch out into Kangaskhan because 1, you negate the Toxic, and 2, I don't think you risk Kangaskhan on a Wood Hammer because you could potentially lose in that case, but I go for Toxic anyway because it's safe, because 1, if I catch the Fini on maybe a Protect, or if I just catch Kangaskhan, it works out for me because this Kangaskhan's on a timer, which is really nice. But yeah, I would have just preferred, obviously, just to get the Wood Hammer off. It would have knocked out Kangaskhan. Even if I took the Recall, I'm pretty sure Bulu can survive a double up anyway. So it was an okay trade. I just didn't want the worst possible situation of Kangaskhan getting in next to Tapu Fini, and then it could be problematic because Fini could maybe get up Calm Minds. And since the Fini wasn't toxic yet, I don't feel like that would have been great. As Double Edge is going to come out here from Kangaskhan, go on the top of Bulu. And here I feel like I made a mistake. I risked my Bulu because I'm worried about the double up in Immense. But I feel like, okay, if he targeted Immense, because you're definitely going to Double Edge Hidden Power Ice that slot, right? So I'm either sacking Mence or I'm sacking Bulu this turn. And I'm like, okay, what do I value more? I think Mence was my end game plan because Double Edge might be able to handle the Feeny. As I am going to go for Shadow Ball. And if you knock out Mence there, then Bulu's a target next turn anyway. So I felt, okay, having Protect is actually really needed here, I think. Having Protect was needed because then, even though Zapdos faints this turn, he could double it. Like, let's say he doubled up in this me switching to Salamence. Salamence gets knocked out. As Zapdos gets knocked out by the poison here, he can go out into his Feeny here. And I bring in my Bulu. He still gets Misty Terrain up. And then I just get threatened by Double Edge Moonblast. And I can't do anything. So I felt like Salamence might have been the best call. Because maybe I can at least get one Double Edge off at least. So gonna fire off and Intimidate onto this Kangaskhan and the Tapu Fini. Now I'm like, okay, this is problematic. Because this Fini can potentially beat me if it gets a lot of Calm Minds up. So Salamence gonna Protect. I do want to sell out this one last turn of Tailwind here. As there is a Double Edge going out into Salamence and a Moonblast in the Salamence, which is great because I actually went on the offensive here, risked my Aegislash here, and go for a Shadow Ball. I didn't think he would Sucker Punch in any case, maybe expected the King Shield, but I knew I need as much damage on the Feeny as possible right here because I really, really need damage on Feeny because I'm not going to have a Toxic up for at least 4 more turns. As Kangaskhan also taking a bit of poison damage. I think it does go down next turn. I am going to Mega Evolve and Protect here because it is my safest play. As I am going to try to get a double. I'm pretty sure Chuppa always goes for the double into Salamence slot. So I'm like, okay. I'm going to actually go for the double into Salamence and King Shield. Because if I get the double, I'm pretty sure I win. Because Kangaskhan goes down and then I can just Double Edge Feeny. Double Edge should be able to knock out the Feeny. I don't get the double, which is alright here. Because I'm pretty sure you have to target down the Salamence slot with a Moonblast. You can't Calm Mind this turn. If you Calm Mind, then Salamence just is able to outspeed next turn once Tailwind goes down. And then I can Double Edge the Feeny. So Double Edge is going to put Kangaskhan in guaranteed range of poison. Moonblast is going to come out into the Salamence slot. The Salamence is going to go down, but my Aegislash is really, really alone against the Tapu Fini. I would have loved to get a Toxic on earlier, and I'm also not at full health of Aegislash, so this game could get a bit tricky, especially with Calm Mind Fini, which I'm pretty sure Chuppa is on this team. So Calm Mind is going to come out from Tapu Fini, and I'm like, okay, I just fire off Shadow Balls here because I need to put him as low as possible for Toxic, and he's probably the berry set. So I'm like, okay, I have to really manage my turns well, but I feel like Aegislash can live like a +4 Muddy Water at the least. Not sure about +5 single target, but I'm pretty sure +4 I can survive, depending on Chuppa set. So I will go for Shadow Ball here into the Tapu Fini slot. Get some good damage onto that Tapu Fini, and I get Special Defense Drop, which is really handy because another Shadow Ball will be able to knock out Tapu Fini, and I'm thinking he's forced to Calm Mind here. He can't go for Muddy Water, as he does go for another Calm Mind here, and I'm like, okay. So Misty Terrain is going to be wearing out soon. I'm going to be able to get a Toxic off eventually. So I will go for Shadow Ball right here into the Tapu Fini slot, and probably Pocket's Berry. If I crit, I win the game right here, but yep, Tapu Fini just able to survive here. Eat up its berry, and now it's back over 50%, and now, okay. This is still a really close game, I feel like, because it might come down to some rolls, but I feel like I can still make the safe play and win anyway, because this Fini's only at +2. As I will King Shield here, in case he goes for Muddy Water here, expecting me to Shadow Ball once again. As I don't feel like I can go for a Shadow Ball here, because if he goes for Muddy Water, I can be in a vulnerable position because I'm in Blade form. And then his hub is broken, and then he could go for another Muddy Water or play the Calm Mind game with me, and I'd be put in such a bad position. So I'd rather get the shield form up, so now I can go for Toxic in the Tapu Fini because this terrain does wear out, and I need to land Toxic. Basically, Toxic is how I can win this game. I just need to land one single Toxic onto that Tapu Fini. Chuppa's finally going to go for a Muddy Water because he knows he has the boost ready. So I will 100% go for the Toxic into the Tapu Fini slot, and it does connect, fortunately. So now it's going to be wearing down that Tapu Fini. No leftovers, so it's going to be taking quite a bit of health every single turn, and I just have to go for like a King Shield game. And this is why Toxic Aegislash can be really, really dumb, because it can actually win these kinds of games. So just going to King Shield here. I don't risk him Muddy Watering, because if he goes for Muddy Water and I try to sub up here, it could be really, really bad for me. So I'd rather make the safe play and get as many turns up. Chuppa makes the smart play and goes for Calm Mind. I was thinking about clicking sub there, but I feel like I still live the Muddy Water regardless because of all the health that I've accumulated thanks to the leftovers. So right here, I know, okay, the Toxic plus another Shadow Ball plus 2 more turns of poison should be able to knock out the Tapu Fini, because I just Shadow Ball here, then King Shield the following turn, and he's still going to take poison and a Shadow Ball. Muddy Water comes really, really close. That actually did a little bit more damage than I expected, but luckily Aegislash just able to pull through because it is such a bulky Pokemon. Shadow Ball going to come out in the Tapu Fini, brings it really low, and now I'm just able to King Shield win the game because poison's not going to knock out the Tapu Fini this turn, but it will in the following turn. So gonna be able to win this game, and that was a really, really close game too, but I do pull it off against Chuppa in a 2-0 fashion. So that was basically my thought process throughout the entire game. I felt like, okay, Aegislash is just really good against my opponent's team. I was able to get rid of the Aegislash early on. It kind of got a bit sloppy because of maybe sacking my Lodic a bit too early, but I didn't want to take a double edge with anything else. I think maybe I could have played that better by maybe saving my Lodic as a sack for later in the game to stall out Tailwind potentially. And I might have not needed health on Salamence really. But I felt like overall it just worked out because I felt like Aegislash, I had really strong confidence in Aegislash in this matchup, and it did pull out the work that I needed to do. But thank you all for watching the best of 3 set that I had against Chuppa Cross at the Aon Win-a-Switch tournament. If you did like this video, please leave a like down below. If you want to go check out Chuppa and follow him on Twitter, I highly recommend doing so. You can check it out in the description down below. And you can obviously check me out, my social medias, my VGC series, all that good stuff will be linked down below. Hope everyone has a good day. And yeah, I'll be uploading more tournament sets as well. I'll be uploading the raw battle videos if you just want to enjoy the battle videos without commentary as well in the future. But anyway, thank you all for tuning in, and I will catch you around in another video.